Hi, I'm Seth Besmertnik, CEO and co-founder of Conductor. In the past, there's been this sort of misperception that SEO is free search, right? Because technically, you cannot pay directly to have a click from Google, right? People go to the search engine and they have three choices. They can search again or leave. They can click on a paid ad in which you pay every time someone clicks on one of those, or you can click on the organic content. And when that actually happens, a marketer doesn't have to pay any money directly to a search engine or any kind of vendor for that particular transaction. That being said, it's very competitive to actually show up when people are there. And while there's some companies who are clearly market leaders and not, the search engine doesn't distinguish how much revenue your company makes with are you the best piece of content to actually show up. So you need to compete for that. And the competition is very much a function of how much is your company investing in increasing your web presence on search engines and other channels. And in order to do that, you need to be thinking about what are people looking for? Is my content great? Can I make my content better? Where do I need to make more content? And how do I make the content that is great, how do I make it get discovered more? How do I make it so it has more links, more social engagement, more exposure? Now, all of those things are things that if you want to do them really well, it costs money, right? If you want to make a great piece of content, it costs a lot more money than making a not so great piece of content, right? You can say, hey, here's $5, make me an article about this, or you can go hire a journalist from the New York Times and say, I'm gonna pay you $10,000, can you write an article about this? Those are sort of the two different ends of the spectrum. So it costs money to invest in making great content and understanding your market and doing that research. And that means that if you don't invest in SEO, then you will not perform in SEO. From when we started the company to where we are today, we still see companies, in some cases, very dramatically under-investing in SEO. We do not see that in terms of them investing in paid search, and even things like Facebook advertising, which is a newer and a newer channel where people have the opportunity to throw money in and actually try to get some results. Part of the challenge is that there's things that require money and there's things that require people and expertise. Now, everything in online marketing and really marketing in general has some mixture of that. You need dollars, you need expertise and people. With SEO, it's very disproportionately on the people and expertise and knowledge, and more importantly, it requires collaboration, right? Companies, you can't just put somebody in the basement and say, here's a credit card, go and give us an SEO program. You can't do that. Now, you can do that with paid search, you can do that with Facebook advertising, you can do that with a lot of display advertising, and you can get some level of results. If you do that with search engine optimization, you're almost guaranteed to get zero return, even though you've hired a person and you might have given them a credit card to do some things. With SEO, it requires to have multiple stakeholders engaged. You have to have your folks who come up with your product ideation involved. You have to have your content creators involved. If you're a retailer, you have to have your merchandisers involved. If you're a B2B company, you have to have your product managers involved. You have to actually have to make great content, and whatever team actually does that, and then you have to actually measure how all of these things are working. And this requires collaboration, it requires coordination, and it requires investment too, and a lot of it is people investment. Engineers are scarce. You need engineers to make changes to your content. That's a hard thing to do. You can't just throw money into the credit card machine, and you can't throw the credit card into the engineering machine and just get more engineering resources. So I think it's because of all of those reasons that, in spite it's potentially the largest opportunity, and organic traffic is substantially sort of lower cost and higher value than really any other channel, companies tend to not address it as their first thing out of the gate when they're thinking about online marketing. Consumers are saying no to sort of traditional and intrusive forms of advertising. Instead, they're going on the web, they're going places and they're looking for things. And while they're looking for things, they've got the choice to read things or watch things. And there's a mix of both, right? They can read things, they can watch things, they can look at things. Most of us are very busy, and I think the human preference, right, my preference as well, is to watch a video as opposed to read something. Doesn't mean reading is not great, but it's very easy to watch. It's more entertaining to watch 20 seconds on how to build a pizza oven in your backyard than it is to read a 3-page article. So video marketing and video creation and video content marketing is absolutely a highly effective way of consumers getting the answers to their questions. Search engines are very much in the business of, I want to answer your question. I don't really care how I answer your question as long as I answer it the best way and I give you the best information. And if that's a video, if that's a map, if that's something from the Wikipedia, if that's a piece of content, it doesn't really matter. So over the last few years, the search engines have made a big focus on providing a holistic and what the industry calls universal way of delivering multiple formats of content to the end user to answer their question. And more often, and in 10 or 20% of the cases, that happens to be a piece of video. So if you want to actually perform for a set of terms in the search engine, you need to have video content in addition to your traditional content if you want to reach that part of the user base for that part of what they're looking for. So it's absolutely a incredibly important part of having a full stack sort of holistic search and web presence sort of management function. And it's a really exciting opportunity for marketers because it's not that competitive. It's fairly it's not saturated with sort of everybody's doing it. And there's a really way to sort of get sort of a leg up in the market right now. At Conductor, we get to work with some of the biggest brands in the world. I think 7 of the 10 largest companies in the planet are customers of Conductor. What is really exciting for having worked with those brands to thinking about a startup or a entrepreneurial organization or an emerging organization is that search doesn't care how big your company is. We have a percentage of our customers that are the same size as Conductor, right? They're high growth, early stage companies. They don't have $1 billion in revenue. They might have $1 million in revenue or $10 million in revenue or $20 million in revenue. And search is a highly sort of merit-based process of getting the best content to show up. So if you are a startup, it's probably one of the only places that you can compete with almost a total level playing field against the big guys. By very smartly researching your users, researching what they're looking for, and actually building the right content to actually find them and making that content successful. While the largest companies in the world are big, they still have very small search teams. They sometimes have only one person in the entire company of 100,000 employees that actually thinks about it. So you as an early stage company, you can have 25% of your time as the founder and the CEO, 25% of your head of marketing. You can have 50% of someone else's time, and all of a sudden, you've actually got more people and more time and more qualitative sort of thinking about how to solve this problem, and really can get an advantage. And we have seen firsthand. I was just with a customer in Minneapolis who is a 25-person early stage company in the insurance space. And the number of unique visitors that they are driving purely based off of coming up with very specific content for competitive phrases in the space, the business is skyrocketing almost purely off of organic search, and I think there's a huge opportunity. I think that one of the biggest evolutions and revolutions and changes that's going to happen over the next 12 to 18 months for marketers is the movement of going from a sort of a transactional marketer to an online marketer and to a real marketer. In traditional marketing, it's very common, and it's very often where you're thinking about your buyer in all the stages of their sort of intent process. You're thinking about driving that BMW and down the road, and things just look beautiful, and you're trying to get in their mind the vision and the dream and the desire of that can drive. You're trying to evoke intent. When it comes to online marketing, what today is online marketing and very much SEO, but really everything in online marketing, it's all about you are ready to buy a car and you want a fast one and you know exactly what you want, let me be there at that moment, right? Let me be there at the end. Let me be transactional. I want to close you. I want to find you when you're ready to buy, and I want to be there right then. And I think that over the next 12 to 18 months, there's going to be this sort of enlightenment with marketers that online marketing and search marketing and SEO is not all about just trying to, be there at the moment of purchase. It's going to be about what's that buyer's journey, and where do they spend their time? What are they looking for? What are the problems that they have? And what are all the steps that they go through before they get to that point where they are actually ready to buy? And I think there's a tremendous opportunity for marketers to think beyond the sort of final click, ready, the final sort of like, I need to buy a laptop now, you have a good deal for me, to, wow, like my computer's really slow, I'm not sure what my next move should be. I want to be there when that person's thinking that. And I think it's very sort of macro and theoretical, but I think that change of that online marketing is not just about the transactional marketing, but it's really about true marketing to customers on the web. And that search and SEO, while it's fantastic as a transactional sort of, transactional form of marketing, it's potentially even more powerful as a means of being there during that buyer journey and really driving intent, creating intent, and being there through the entire sort of intent process.